In today's video, we're going to be talking about some Japan advice. This was inspired by my friend Tracy over at Weekly Fascination. He put a video out recently where he shared his tips, and I thought, hey, I've got some tips as well, so why don't I put together a video and share mine? These are just through my observations, and I do appreciate and understand that different things work for different people. So the first one I have on my list is working in Japan. Don't be too fussy in terms of pay, especially when you first get here. Remember that living costs are cheaper, and obviously don't go for below the market rate kind of jobs. Try to do a job that utilizes as many of the skills that you have. Cultivate your strengths and learn the work culture. Take note of how people interact, be humble, and take criticisms seriously, and don't immediately get defensive. Take it in, reflect a bit, and don't hold grudges for one-off issues. If you can improve, do so, and if you can't, discuss it and humbly ask for guidance. There's a fantastic phrase in Japanese, which is "ご指導ください, お願いします." Shido means to instruct. So humbly you can ask, please instruct me, please teach me how it's done. And that can come in very handy. Second, learn Japanese. This is something that, comes up again and again on my channel, and I like to make a point that it doesn't need to be perfect. You don't have to get N1 or anything like that to benefit from knowing the language. Knowing the language is going to increase your chances of having a more enriched or a smooth life here in Japan. It just really helps you, and if you can't speak the language at all, you're going to be relying on friends or your partner perhaps, and that's fine for, short-term arrangement, but as a long-term thing, that can be, put a bit of stress on that person, and it's overall, your experience will be better, I think, in my opinion, if you can speak the language. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have N1. No one's saying, go and get the N1, because it's not realistic for everyone, so that's really, really important. Okay, the next point, and this ties in with the language where I said it doesn't need to be perfect, but you need to make an effort because they love seeing that. And that's my third point. Make an effort. Effort is really appreciated here in Japan. The first time I came to Japan was all the way back in 1998, as some of you know. I stayed here for a year on a working holiday visa, and one of the first things I noticed was that sincere effort is recognized and rewarded. And it's not to say that results don't matter, but it's worth making an effort, okay? And it also applies to speaking the language. And like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect. And when people see how much effort you make, it makes all the difference, okay, in your relationships. Number 4 on the list, look your best. I need to follow my advice on this sometimes. Sometimes I look a bit scruffy when I get out. I must admit, I get a bit lazy every now and then. But looking good and looking your best is quite important. And I think that also ties in to the previous point of putting in an effort or making an effort, because it's not really a matter of being good looking, right? I mean, obviously that helps, not all of us, case in point, not all of us are blessed with fantastic looks, but if people can see that you're putting in effort to groom yourself and to present nicely, wear nice clothes, good fit, even if you're overweight, I mean, I'm a little overweight. Actually, people think I'm not because I have a slim face, but I am actually a bit overweight. But if you're dressed neatly and properly, people appreciate that, and it goes a long way, okay? Trust me. Number 5, be a people pleaser. This is a bit of a controversial one because we all know that being a yes man or a woman is not a great quality to have, okay? It's not good to just say yes to everything. But what I mean by being a people pleaser is that it's important to do what is expected of you, Okay, so how do you please someone? You do your job, for example. If someone's told you that your job is to move this little case over here, this is my glasses case. So if someone tells you to move this glasses case from here to here, do that. You know, don't do something else. Don't try to rewrite the job description for no reason. Do what is expected of you, and that will please the people around you, especially at work. But it also applies to relationships and, you know, friendships and so on. Hi there. Sorry to interrupt the program, but I actually recorded this video a few days ago, and as you can probably tell, it was nighttime, and there's no way I was going to make a coffee at night because I'd be up until all hours of the morning. So what I decided to do was record a separate coffee segment. So I'm actually going to show you my coffee from this morning, and I'll put this in the video because it's just, you know, it doesn't feel complete without a coffee. I'm going to be using these beans from a place called Sawai Coffee. I've been using this now for hot coffee since about a couple of weeks ago, and it's actually really, really good. It's a very well-balanced coffee. You know, the normal kinds of well-rounded coffees that you get, not too acidic, not too bitter. It's right in the middle, nice and smooth and well-rounded, and it actually tastes really, really good. I highly recommend it. Anyway, let's get going. I'm going to do 15 grams and about 250 grams of water. Quick squirt of water helps reduce the static. I did my light roast this morning, so this is on a very fine setting. It's on 45 at the moment, so I'm actually going to change it back to about 55, and that should be okay for our medium. I'd call this a medium dark kind of a roast. Probably a darkish. And I mean, you can see there's a couple of light colored beans in there. So it's a blend. So they've blended some light colored beans or medium roasts in there with darker roasts, but it's a very nice blend. But so I don't want to grind too fine with this stuff. And 55 on this grinder is actually really, really good. Over here, you can see it goes all the way up to 80. All right, okay, let's grind. Water's ready, let's go. All right, I'm gonna go for 2.5 minutes for this brew, and we'll see how we go. I'm still experimenting, I'm always changing things up, and you know, it's fun to see what happens when you change things. All right, we're gonna start that timer and go. I'm gonna put about 45 grams of water in. Around there, it's perfect. You can see it's just to wet the coffee so that it soaks and it blooms. And I'm going to give it about 45 seconds. I've been testing various bloom times. This phase is called the bloom phase, and it's very important. It dictates how much flavor you're going to get out and at what rate and all of that. So it's quite important. So we're on 30 seconds now. So once it hits 1 minute and 45, we'll keep pouring. All right, so I'm going to go with a nice gentle pour like this, not too fast, and I don't want to agitate it too much. I think I mentioned in a previous video that I've been over extracting, and I realized that because things were just getting a bit too dry sometimes, and I was getting this strong, like an unpleasant bitterness. It's interesting how you can get pleasant and unpleasant bitterness, but it exists. So I've only got a minute left for this brew. Go a bit faster. Remember, we're going to go to 250 grams. I think you can't see this scale, but it's on 168 at the moment. And let's keep going. I'm trying to keep the flow kind of low, the stream, so it doesn't agitate too much. And we've only got 40 seconds left for our 2-minute 30 mark. And we've only got about 30 grams to go, or even less. Okay,
We're on 250.5 and only 30 seconds left on the clock. That should work out fine. It's going to take about 20 seconds for the rest of the water to drain. Okay, time's up. It's been 2:30 and it's all done. Perfect timing. Okay, let's go. It's the moment of truth. Oh, not kidding. Things have really improved over here at Ohazassu over the last few weeks, ever since I've been paying a bit more attention to the grind size and also the brew time. I highly recommend looking into brew time if it's not something that you've played with at all, because things have changed quite a bit, especially in the light roasts and the dark roasts. Medium roasts, they're a bit safer. They give a bit more leeway, I feel. But with dark roasts, if you over extract, and that happens when you brew for too long or your coffee's too fine, and it just gets too bitter and it's dry in your mouth, and after you swallow it just kind of burns your throat a bit. I don't really like that. And with the light roasts, if you don't brew enough, it's too sour. I mean, we like the sourness of the light roasts for us people who enjoy a light roast, but if it's too sour and it doesn't have any of that flavor that you're looking for, or the characteristics of the coffee, then it just becomes a sour coffee, and it's kind of a waste of time because you're missing out on all the beautiful flavors in the coffee. So you want to increase the extraction on a light roast, in my opinion anyway, for me, for my taste buds, and with a dark roast you want to bring it down a bit, keep it under control. All right, it's time to get back to editing the video. Hopefully I can get it up by tomorrow morning. See ya.
Number 6 is read books. This is an important one, especially if you're at intermediate or upper intermediate Japanese level. And let's say if you're at N3 or N2 level in Japanese, go to a bookshop and find some books that genuinely interest you, because this is the secret sauce. It's finding something that you're actually interested in. So for example, I bought this book on bad smartphone habits and that kind of stuff, you know, digital addiction, and how it's bad for the brain and how it affects everything in our lives. So I was interested in that when I saw it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to buy that. And so, you know, because it's something you're interested in, your brain automatically starts remembering things or remembers things a lot easier, and you'll find that your retention is a lot higher, your retention rate. So that's one thing. And another thing is that you'll notice that by reading on a regular basis, your JLPT level, whether or not you take the actual test, it doesn't matter, but your level will go up. Okay, so if you're on N2, and I mean, that's actually what I did, and I've got a video on that, I'll put the link down below, is that, you know, if you want to improve your reading speed, and that's probably the hardest part for us people who don't come from a kanji background, it's really, really hard to read kanji text fast and understand it. So the way that I beat that is that I started reading on a regular basis. And I'm guilty. I mean, at the moment, I don't read that much. I just read what I need to for work and whatever. But I wish, you know, I do want to go back to regular reading, because it makes all the difference, and it makes you a much faster reader. Even after about a month or so, you'll notice that your reading speed and your comprehension will go up exponentially. Okay, so that's really, really important. Actually, while we're here, I want to mention something else as well. Japanese books are next level. You know, I mean, we have some great books in the English world, but the Japanese books are something else. The way they're presented, the quality, even physical things like the paper, the cover, the quality of the materials, all of that, it's fantastic. It's just so well arranged and put together. And another thing that you'll find when you start reading Japanese books is that the authors of those books, they've been brought up here, and they're familiar with the issues that they're talking about in the context of Japan. Whereas if you have a Westerner or someone who is from a Western country or from any other country, be it Europe, Africa, wherever, someone who's not from Japan, even if they're an expert in their field, they might be an expert in their country, and things in their country might be very different, and they usually are. And it's more helpful sometimes to get the perspective of a Japanese expert. And these are not just limited to things like science, engineering, that sort of stuff. I'm talking about even life lessons. Like that smartphone thing that I mentioned, there are some things in there that apply to Japan. And because the author's a Japanese person, they're more familiar with the issues that happen in Japan, and they're also able to give you advice that works in Japan with Japanese bosses and Japanese subordinates and Japanese colleagues and so on. Okay, so that sort of stuff isn't so easy to navigate for someone who's not from Japan. Their advice might apply overseas, but it might not apply here in Japan, or it might not be as effective. The principle might be the same, but the specific kind of instruction or the advice might not be as good, and you don't want to make things worse with that sort of thing. Next, number 7. Be curious. Be open-minded, ask questions, and if you have any suspicions about something, about how, what someone said to you or the way that your boss is treating you, I mean, yes, of course, there are times where there's things like power harassment and, mismanagement and that sort of stuff. But there are also times when it's simply a cultural misunderstanding. And sometimes you might actually find that they're trying to be nice to you. They're trying to help you out. And you might be interpreting it the wrong way. And that can go really wrong. I mean, imagine if you're trying to help someone and they get angry at you, or they distance themselves, and you're sort of like, what did I do? So sometimes that's the case. So try to be open-minded. I know it's hard because I've done that as well. And that's why I'm able to tell you to be open-minded and to be curious. And that's actually mixed in with the next one. When something happens, it might make you angry at the time, but try to get over it. Try to talk to a friend in the meantime. Don't say things, especially to bosses, don't say things that you can't take back, because you can regret those things. And it's good to keep things as peaceful as possible. Of course, if there is a genuine problem, that will need to be addressed appropriately, but don't make it your first knee-jerk reaction. Always try to be open-minded. Take a deep breath, take a step back, sleep on it, talk to a friend, all of the sensible stuff, and it should help you out a bit. The next one is be early. This is a really, really, obvious one in Japan. I'm sure a lot of you know how important and how much the Japanese value promptness. It's really, really important. And let's face it, it's important all over the world, and no one likes to be, standing somewhere, kept waiting for hours and hours. Anything more than 15 minutes or something, even as an Aussie, over 15 minutes, I start getting a bit edgy. Back home in Australia, though, we do say 5 minutes, and sometimes that means half an hour or an hour to some people. So I'm used to that as well. In Japan, people expect you to be a little bit early. So if your appointment's at 7, it's best to be there at 10 to 7. This is my little insider tip for you. If you're, say, scheduled for 7, add around 30 minutes to your schedule, okay? So be there at 6:30. If it's the city, like if you're in a dense city area in the middle of Tokyo, if it's me, it's up to, everyone's probably got their own system, but for me, I like to be about 45 minutes early if I can. I'm not saying that you have to be there 45 minutes earlier, but aim for that. Aim to be 45 minutes early. Because I'm always a bit late. If I aim to be somewhere at 7, I tend to be there at 7 on the dot, or even just a little bit after 7. So I always aim to be half an hour before that, and it's usually just right for me. And if I'm, like I said, in the city, make it 45 or an hour even in some cases. If you're in the middle of Tokyo and it's peak hour, mate, aim for 6 and you'll be fine. Okay, and it never hurts to be early. You can go to the convenience store, you can get yourself a drink, you can get yourself some mints or something, take a little walk, de-stress. And if it's a work meeting, you'll notice that being early also calms your nerves. I mean, for me it does anyway, because if you're late or if you're just on time and you're stressing out about not being able to find the building at the last minute, because that's happened to me. I've thought, hey, everything's fine, I'm 10 minutes early, everything's sweet. And then I try to find the building, and you know what Google Maps does, it'll throw you off at the last second. It'll tell you to turn left when you're supposed to turn right, or it'll show you the wrong direction on the map or something at the last minute, and you'll go the wrong way for 5 minutes, and then you're going to be late. So always try to be a bit early. Next one on the list is expect delays. Now, this is a bit of philosophy, I think it was Seneca, one of those guys, the Stoics, but there was a philosopher out there somewhere who said life becomes a bit less painful or a bit easier if you expect the worst. And I think this ties in with that. So expect delays, expect to be late, expect your train to be delayed. There can be accidents, there can be various reasons why a train can be delayed in Japan, and it usually happens at the worst possible time. And so expect that. Expect some kind of a problem. Expect a slow walker to suddenly pop up in front of you as you're rushing. Someone might get out from a corner and start walking in front of you, and you might not be able to overtake them. And so you just, obviously, you have to be safe around someone like that. They might be older or have some kind of an issue. Maybe their leg is hurt or something. And so you can't push people. And you just have to go at that speed. You can't do anything about it. So expect a delay. And so if you want to have a bit less stress in this very difficult environment sometimes, it can be very stressful if you're not ready for this kind of thing. Honestly, expecting something to go wrong, it'll reduce your stress. Just think like, look, something's going to happen, and the way to battle that or to combat that is to just be early. Be early and be ready and be prepared. Number 11, accept that you're different. I see a lot of people online complaining about, discrimination, racism, the Japanese look at me all the time, they think I'm, some alien or a monster or whatever. And it does feel a bit like that sometimes, If someone keeps staring at you, you get a bit self-conscious. But there is a reason to this, 99% of the population is Japanese. And, it's natural. The brain can't... It's like a reflex reaction, okay? If you see something that's different, you look. You can't help it. So don't... try to, I know it's hard sometimes, and especially if you've had a long day and you're sensitive and you're stressed, it can be a bit hard. It can get on your nerves, I'll admit. But just keep that in mind, okay? Take a breath and just go, well, it's not like, if you're in their shoes, you'd probably be looking as well. So it's a hard one, I know, but just remember that you're different, you look different, and so it's, it's one of those things that we need to accept. And by the way, this is not to say that racism doesn't exist. It exists everywhere, unfortunately, in the world, and so that does happen. Fortunately, I haven't really experienced it, not in that direct way. I don't know what people say behind my back, but that direct kind of racism, I haven't experienced it here. So yeah, that's that one there. Number 12, next on my list, is do the right thing. So this is actually very relevant. The topic of immigration and permanent residency has been quite hot for the last few months, and this applies to that. So, for example, if you're applying for a visa, the government checks to see if you've been doing the right thing. And so that includes things like, are you paying the pension on time? Do you pay your taxes on time? Do you have a criminal record? All of these things work, for you if you've been doing the right thing. So it counts for a lot, and make sure that you've paid everything and you've paid on time. And, I've actually witnessed a case in my experience here in Nagoya. I've heard of a case where someone was illegally here because they thought that it was their employer's responsibility to update their visa. And, to a lot of us, that's common sense. It's common sense that it's your job to look after your visa and your passport and all that kind of stuff. It's not your boss's responsibility. You could argue that they should be, checking. They should have some kind of a system where they're running internal checks, because it obviously causes a problem for the employer as well. If all of a sudden their employee, you, is being picked up by the immigration office for an illegal stay. But as far as I'm aware, it's not like it's your employer's job. It's not like they have, of course they have a duty to make sure that you have a visa when they hire you. And you could, I guess you could say that they should be checking every now and then. But if you're not looking after your own paperwork in that regard, that's a big problem. So, do the right thing and be careful. I know these things happen, and I think in that case, fortunately, I think there weren't any major issues because the person was honest. They actually went to the immigration office and they actually said that, they voluntarily went in and said that they had been staying here illegally for the last few weeks or whatever, because they completely missed that their visa had expired. I don't know eventually what happened with them, but I'm guessing or hoping that everything ended up being okay. Obviously, their employer would have backed them and vouched for them and all that, so hopefully it would have been okay, but just be careful. Next on the list, yearly health checks. These are fantastic, by the way, and it's something that I think a lot of countries around the world should be doing. They have these, if you work somewhere, it's kind of the rule that you have to get a health check every year. And they do basic things like blood tests, urine tests, blood pressure, eye tests, hearing tests in some cases, chest x-rays, stomach x-rays, which they call, barium testing. You can also get, cameras and that kind of stuff as well if you pay extra, but all that sort of stuff. And they track it every year. So if they've noticed that something's gotten worse, something in your blood, like let's say your cholesterol's gone up, the doctor will actually point that out and say, hey, it's gone up compared to last year, and you got to be a bit more careful with your food or whatever. And this is something, by the way, like I said, if you work somewhere, they will make you kind of do this because they decide when it's done, and they'll either have a truck come outside. These are really interesting trucks, by the way. They have a mobile truck that comes to the company, and there's a little mini x-ray machine in there for the chest x-ray and all that. Very interesting kind of a setup, actually. I'd never seen anything like it in Australia. So that happens if you're an employee, but if you're working on your own, say you're a business owner or a freelancer or something, it's on you. You've got to, you get reminders from the government, but you've actually got to go and get it done. They can't physically force you to get it done, I think, to my knowledge. But yeah, be careful with that. Next on the list, I'm going to say save money. A lot of people, you see this on the Reddit boards or on X. Occasionally people run into financial problems because, let's face it, even though Japan is quite an affordable country compared to Australia or wherever, things can still add up very quickly. And there are some, rent and stuff is cheap in Japan, but there are some things in Japan that add up. Health insurance adds up. Transport can add up. If you're driving, the tolls can be extremely expensive compared to back home. There are things that you're not sort of prepared for sometimes, and they can add up. And even overall, I mean, life is reasonable financially, it's reasonable, but if you run into some kind of a difficulty at work and you don't get paid for a few weeks, you can run into some trouble. And so it's always important to have a little bit of an emergency fund set aside. One tip that I used to use back in the day was I used to collect 500 yen coins because they're so small, but they're worth a lot of money. And just putting one aside every couple of days comes to quite a big amount at the end of the year. And in an emergency, it can be very, very handy. So make sure you save a bit of money every week or every month. I mean, we get paid monthly usually here in Japan. So when you get your check, make sure you put a little bit aside every month and manage your money like that. Okay, next up, be ready for natural disasters. It goes without saying that Japan is an earthquake-prone country. There are also tsunamis and that sort of stuff. There's landslides. And it's important to be ready with an emergency evacuation backpack. Make sure you've got one ready. Have a bit of water in there, some snacks, some things like plastic bags maybe, first aid kit. There are plenty of resources online and they can help you. And you can seriously save your life possibly by being prepared in this way. Trains, be quiet on trains. This one comes up quite a bit, doesn't it? You don't have to be silent, but just be considerate enough. Think of it this way. Would you be able to close your eyes and have a little nap if the person next to you was speaking at the volume that you're speaking at? Ask yourself that question, because for a lot of these people who sleep on the trains, or they're just closing their eyes perhaps, for some of these people, that little break, like it might be 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the train, that little break might be the only break they get in a very, very busy day, like a 12-hour day or something. Someone might be traveling 2 hours each way, so 8 hours plus a 4-hour round trip, that's 12 hours. And the train might be the only time where they get a little bit of a chance to close their eyes and rest. The next one is, and this is pretty important actually, don't fight the fax. Okay, the fax machine is always brought up when people are trying to diss Japan and say that it's living in the past and it's old-fashioned or whatever. And it's true, like some places still do use the fax machine. And I mean, let's face it, sometimes a fax machine is the best thing around, because an email, you have to have a computer, you have to have an account, you have to open it, you have to have access. A fax machine, you could literally just be standing next to it, and when the fax comes in, it comes in, and you can just pick it up and read it. So for places like pharmacies and doctors, hospitals, wherever, these things are actually used because they're a lot easier for some people. So, and I'm sure there are other industries where they're used like that as well. But the reason I said don't fight the fax as the tagline for this is not, it doesn't just apply to fax machines, okay? Japan sometimes likes doing things the old way. And it can be puzzling at times, because there are some really high-tech things, like you look at a toilet seat, and it's got sometimes they have something like, 15 buttons. And so despite that level of technological advancement, there are sometimes these things like fax machines or seals, hanko, where you stamp instead of sign. There are these old-fashioned things that still exist. And, just be ready for that and don't fight it. It's just how it is, and you're not going to change it. Screaming and jumping up and down and complaining about it is not going to change a thing, okay? They'll change it when they want to change it. When there's a need and when they see that it makes sense for them and they're ready for it, they'll change it. But in the meantime, just go with it. Don't fight the fax, and, you'll have a much easier life if you just settle down and go with it. Talk to someone. This is something that, a lot of us don't do because it can be hard to find someone to talk to sometimes in Japan. If, let's say, for example, I'll give you a real-life example. You might have had a very close friend who you would go out drinking with or you'd have a coffee with once a week, and you probably used to talk about all of the stresses in your life. But in places like Japan, the reality is that people come and go all the time. So that person that you didn't know was your therapist has all of a sudden they've left, and you've got no person to speak to, and it can be quite devastating, actually. And so, there's this thing that, this saying that I was told probably about a year or two ago, and I find this really, really nice. It's a good saying, and it's hanasu koto wa hanasu koto. And it means that talking is letting go, or talking is getting over something. And I think it's a beautiful phrase because there's a lot of truth to that. When you tell someone about your problems, you feel better. It's just an automatic thing that happens when you share something with someone. So if you're feeling very, very stressed and like there's no way out and you're suffering, ask yourself if you have actually told anyone about this before you do anything drastic, before you quit your job or say things that you're going to regret, or do things that you're going to regret. Ask yourself if you've actually talked to someone about it. And there are obviously professional services out there as well. If you don't have a friend, there are organizations out there where you can reach out and talk. There are doctors around that you can talk to, and even online. You might hop online and make some friends in the gaijin communities here, like on YouTube or on X or on Instagram or wherever. And even that can probably help you out. But, this is a medical issue, potentially. So obviously, I'm not a medical professional. So if you need help, seek professional help in that case. So to finish up, a little bit of light-hearted advice. It might actually sound light-hearted, but this has saved me many times. It's actually more important than you realize, is to always carry a small rubbish bag with you, like a plastic bag. Because there are no rubbish bins in Japan unless you're at a convenience store or something. And having this thing will help you a lot, this little plastic bag. You might go somewhere, you might eat something, you might end up with a wrapper or a piece of packaging that's wet, and you can't just put that in your pocket or in your bag because it'll make a mess. So having a spare plastic bag, it saves you from all of that. And you can just carry it with you. You can keep it in your bag, and your bag won't get dirty. And that way you can just wait till you get home or to a convenience store, and you can get rid of it over there. All right, well, that concludes John's long list of advice. Thanks very much for hanging around all the way to the end. If you're still here, really appreciate you watching. And by the way, if you found this video useful, if you can please subscribe to my channel. I was looking at my stats the other day and I noticed that a lot of you are not subscribed, and it would really help the channel if you did. And if you gave my video a like, and also if you have any friends, family, or acquaintances who might be interested in this kind of content, please share it with them as well. It's a real big help. That brings me to the end of the episode, and that means it's time for Word of the Day, where we learn a new Japanese word connected to something that I've spoken about in the video. I'm going to go with chokin. Chokin is saving or savings, and that's connected to the point where I spoke about the importance of saving some money, putting some money aside for a rainy day. And there are words like chokin bako, which is a money box. It's a saving box, basically. Hako is a box, and chokin bako is a money box. That's it for this episode. I'll catch you at the next one. Bye for now.